this meeting of the Audit, Safety, Compliance, and Real Estate Committee. Could I get a roll call, please?
It would be David Weiss, Chair, Lauren Welch, Vice Chair, Anastasia Elder,
Here.
Emily Pachetti,
Here.
Jeffrey Sleesman.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, the first item on the agenda is an approval of the minutes. Do I have any questions, concerns, or corrections? Hearing none, I'll move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second, Elder.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes. The minutes are approved. The minutes from June 2nd, 2025 are approved. We have a couple of presentations on the docket today. The first is let's see, Cleveland Metro Park Viaduct parcels to approve a 10-year license agreement with an option for an additional 10 years with the Cleveland Metropolitan Park District for 3 parcels of land located on or near Leonard Street, French Street, and British Street, Columbus Road Peninsula, Cleveland, Ohio. And we'll have a presentation from James Reed, property manager. The floor is yours, Jim.
Thank you, Chairman Sleesman, members of the board. My name is Jim Reed. I'm the property manager here at RTA. I'm here today to talk about a resolution to enter into a license agreement with the Cleveland Metropolitan Park District for the use of certain real estate owned by the authority for the development, operation, and maintenance of a public park for a 10-year term with an optional 10-year renewal term. This being more than 3 years in duration, board approval is required. The general location of this project is on the Columbus Peninsula, just west of Columbus Road, and between, rather below the GCRTA viaduct. There are 3 small parcels there that were acquired from Cleveland Union Terminals back in 1989. Whoops. These slides depict the current conditions of the 3 lots. They're basically just open, grassy areas under the viaduct that do require periodic maintenance by GCRTA. Metro Parks has proposed a concept plan to include the 3 parcels which are contiguous with other land currently under control of the Metro Parks. The 3 parcels are a total of 1.3 acres. Metro Parks currently owns or controls property from the north, just out of the picture to the upper left, at the old cement silos and some of the surrounding land, and continuing through the peninsula all the way down to Rivergate Park, the Rivergate Park Merwin's Wharf area. The concept is to develop these into a what they call clean and green space. That means there would be minimal improvements, basically grass and shrubs, to make a more inviting and useful space. They've also proposed a few all-purpose trails through the area. The terms and conditions of this agreement provide for a 10-year license agreement with 1 10-year extension option. Metro Parks assumes all development, operational, and maintenance costs, as well as liability and security. There will be minimal improvements, as I described. The operations of Metro Parks may not interfere with any GCRTA operations. We will continue to control these sites for purposes of maintenance on the piers and the viaduct. In other words, we can close them off to the public while that maintenance is being conducted. We've agreed to provisions for the joint approval of any future proposed murals or art installations on the piers. And either party may terminate the agreement on 90 days' notice. Staff requests that the committee recommend this agreement to the full Board of Trustees for approval. I'm available to answer any questions regarding this matter.
Do I have any questions from the committee or the board as a whole?
Thank you for the presentation this morning. Just a question regarding kind of long-term. One, if there were ever to be, for Metro Parks, improvements beyond public art, does this agreement really have any framework for other types of capital improvements to the site? And then, just the second question, are there other GCRTA sites contiguous or nearby, other parcels that may, be in consideration for future Metro Parks?
Yeah. Well, to answer the first question, no. In fact, we've specifically prohibited extensive development of the parcels such that, it would provide gathering areas. And that's not their intention. They want the whole space to be clean and green. There may be budget considerations, but that's what they have on the table right now. They may come back later with something. And the second question, the parcels are, they're outliers to some extent. They don't serve much purpose. We do have, the piers are sitting on those, but there are other piers up and down the line of the viaduct where we don't own the parcels that they're sitting on. So these are just kind of three odd parcels. They're really of no utility to RTA at all. We just have to maintain them.
All right, Trustee Elder. Clarification, you said that they'd be using this for, as a clean, green space. Is it truly just going to be a green space that they're developing? Or is it going to be, benching, playground, that kind of activity on
They
this
may
space?
do some of that on their other parcels, but not on our parcels.
Okay, so this is solely just to keep up the land
Yeah.
in alignment with their priorities. Okay.
You said we had joint approval of any public art. Is there any already in the works, or is that just a future idea?
Not at this time,
Okay.
but we would expect that there would be. Once these parks, we saw the same thing down at Merwin's when that was developed. The artist came forward and wanted to do some murals. So I would expect the same thing to happen here. Once this is developed and the public starts arriving and using the parcels and the trails.
And for additional clarification, is this the West Bank? It's
When you get down on that peninsula, it's a bit hard to
okay. So I just,
determine
I was
which
looking at
bank
the map.
you're
I'm
on.
like, what part is this? Okay.
You can see it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, this is east. If
The map he has up is,
I see.
yes, if you're on the east bank, you would have a straight shot down Columbus Road.
North Bank.
Thank you.
Do I have any other questions? If not, do I have a motion to bring this to the full board?
Second, Elder. Motion.
I'll second it.
Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, and this will come to the full board. Okay, our second presentation is also from Jim Reed, Property Manager, to approve a land exchange agreement with Burton Bell Car Development, Inc., in furtherance of the East 79th Street Green and Blue Line Station reconstruction. Jim, have at it.
Thank you, Chairman Sleesman, members of the board. Again, I'm Jim Reed, Property Manager here at RTA. The purpose of this resolution is to enter into a real estate exchange with Burton Bell Car Development, Inc. for the proposed acquisition of real estate necessary for the construction of the new East 79th Street Rapid Transit Station on the Blue-Green Line. I got the wrong thing in front Burton Bell Carr Development is a nonprofit community development organization operating in the Ward 5 Kinsman neighborhood. Burton Bell owns and is redeveloping Shaker Square, is the owner of Arbor Park Place at East 40th and Quincy, Bridgeport Place on Kinsman Road, and other developments in the area. They've been our close partner on this East 79th Street project since it's situated right there at their Hillside Park property. The location is the East 79th Street station on the blue-green line depicted here in the map. This is along, or rather just south of the Opportunity Corridor and falls within it may not be in the exact core area, but it falls within the influence of developments going on in and around Opportunity Corridor. This slide is intended to lay out the current ownership, property lines, and current conditions on the site. RTA owns the area outlined in yellow, with an area of approximately 2.27 acres. Burton Bell Carr Development owns the Hillside Park property outlined in green, which is approximately 1.5 acres. The new East 79th Street station requires additional land to the south to accommodate the proposed expanded facility. There's an excess portion on the GCRTA parcel, which is outlined in blue. It's unused and not needed for transit purposes or for the current station or future station development. We have come to an agreement with Burton Bell Carr Development on a solution that is a win-win. RTA will acquire Parcel A, as depicted on this map, which is approximately 6,321 square feet and contiguous with the existing station footprint. Burton Bell Carr will acquire Parcel B, as depicted. It's approximately 6,952 square feet and contiguous with Hillside Park. And they will have that piece for park or future development purposes. The terms of the exchange are as follows. There will be no cash consideration. The exchanged parcels are deemed to be of equal value. The exchange is contingent upon the waiver of certain deed restrictions in favor of the city of Shaker Heights and Cuyahoga County. Both of those parties have expressed their intent to cooperate on this project, and there are no immediate objections to our proposal. RTA will pay all of the closing costs as initiator of the transaction, and they are not expected to be significant. We have a 30-day due diligence period, although in developing the project, our due diligence on this land is basically complete. And we will have a closing within 30 days following the conclusion of the due diligence. Staff is requesting that the committee recommend this land exchange to the Board of Trustees for approval. I welcome any questions or further details you would like to explore.
Do I have any questions from the committee or the board as a whole?
I mean, it looks like some of that is needed to really provide, I know part of that plan was ADA accessible ramps and things like that, and you can tell in that picture that those would play into some of those areas, so it seems like a good idea.
Oh, it's a win-win. It gives us exactly what we need. We were going to have to take the 6,300 square feet anyway, but this is the design. This has been the design and the plan from the beginning. And Burton Bell Carr has been involved, along with the community.
Were there any, and I don't ask this to drum up any drama or trouble, but were there any good faith concerns on either side that just have to be kept an eye on, or pretty much good to go?
No, no, not really. We have, I mean, we're working along with Burton Bell car development right along. They've helped us with community engagement, particularly surrounding the closing of the current station for the construction to begin, which occurred a couple of weeks ago. They've utilized their radio station and their outreach, community meetings and such. It helps us out a great deal.
Yeah, it's good to hear.
I'll piggyback on that and just say they've been a really good partner, good collaborator, if that's the right term, to be able to kind of move these things forward. It's not always easy. It's very layered, and Jim does a great job of being able to coordinate that. I will say that I think they understand our mission to be able to kind of really connect the community for the mobility aspect, and especially make sure that folks don't get caught or stuck in their areas without some access to public transit. So this is really helpful. They've been great so far, so we continue with that.
Yeah, I've been in unrelated meetings, and it's always been very productive, all these, yeah. All right, with that, I will move to bring this to the full board. Do I have a second?
Second, Pachetti.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So this passes, and we'll go to the full board for approval. And I think that's our last item for this committee. So do I have a motion to adjourn? I will move to adjourn.
So, second, Pachetti. Sorry.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So I will adjourn this meeting at 9:27.
Okay. So operational planning, there will be Jeff Sleesman, Chair,
Right.
Lauren Welch, Vice Chair, Anastasia Elder, Marie Gallo, Stephen Love. Yes. Reverend Lucas. Okay, adding Elder, you have a quorum.
Great, thanks. So for the record here, we're temporarily adding Trustee Elder to the Operational Planning Infrastructure Committee meeting. The first item on the agenda for this committee is an approval of the minutes from June 3rd, 2025. Do I have any questions, concerns, or changes to be made? Hearing none, I'll move to approve those minutes. Do I have a second?
Second, Love.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The minutes stand approved. We have a few items on the agenda today. The first is an agreement with CMSD. We're going to discuss the CMSD Intergovernmental Student Transportation Agreement for the 2025-2026 school year, and we'll have a presentation from John Tower, Director of Accounting. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Sleesman, members of the committee. My name is John Taher, Director of Accounting, and I am presenting to you the intergovernmental agreement for the student transportation with the Cleveland Metropolitan School District for the 2025-2026 school year. Since 2006, CMSD has partnered with GCRTA to purchase discounted student fares. As in the past, CMSD wants to make public transportation available to its enrolled students. This agreement is for students in grades 9 through 12 for the school year beginning August 18, 2025 and ending May 28, 2026. A change to this year's agreement at CMSD's request is that our passes that they have will be valid 7 days a week from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. for the entire school year, and this includes holidays. In 2024-25 school year, there was no limitations. This is a volume pricing agreement for $2,500,000, and it'll be based on projected student rides using the 2024-2025 school year information. This agreement will only apply to students who have CMSD GCRTA Picture ID pass cards, which is, this is an example of that pass card right there. We supply them with a magnetic stripe fare card, and they emboss the student's picture on them. And this is compatible with all our fare boxes. Some terms of the agreement. This agreement states that GCRTA will supply 13,500 student ID cards for the school year. CMSD will make a 90% lump sum payment of $2,250,000 in September, and the balance will be reconciled and paid at the end of the school year based on actual rides at $1.67 per ride. GCRTA will continue to reconcile the actual CMSD rides and issue a final bill and credit memo to the school at the end of the year. As in prior years, we will give CMSD the actual student ride information on a monthly basis. Any tickets that CMSD would buy above and beyond this agreement will be at the current student fare rate of $1.75 per ride. With that, staff recommends a request that the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee recommend to the Board of Trustees for the approval of the intergovernmental student transportation agreement with CMSD for the school year 2025-2026. Any questions?
So any questions from the committee or the board as a whole? Mr. Love?
Thank you for the overview. Just for clarification, you mentioned kind of restrictions on this contract term. So could you reiterate that versus as opposed to last year?
Yeah. So in the 24-25 school year, students could use their fare cards anytime on any transportation throughout the year. What they wanted, CMSD, we gave them information so they could see when students were riding the service, and they decided that they wanted to limit it from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. because they thought there was no good reason why their students be riding the system at 1 o'clock in the morning, and there was some last year, so.
And then just to follow up on that, is the contract value then impacted by that?
Yes and no. We reconcile the actual rides, and last year they used 12,000 students, or they had 12,000 passes, and it was just shy of $2,500,000 at the end of the school year. This year they're upping it another 1,000 or 1,500 riders, but limiting the service. So we're anticipating about the same amount of rides. And once again, we will reconcile that, and they'll either pay us at the end of the school year, or we'll give them a credit for the next contract.
Trustee Elder, Trustee Love asked the questions that I had in mind. Just out of curiosity, I saw that where CMSD wants a number of tickets above or outside of what the contract allows for, they'll get it at 175, is that right?
Right.
What are the circumstances in which they might buy single or additional passes outside of this deal? Because if we're talking 7 days a week, 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., what other,
Sometimes we'll use, summer school is the easiest one. When they have summer school, this agreement does not cover summer programs, so they will buy passes or fare cards for the summer. And then if there are, sometimes they'll have field trips that are not 9th through 12th grade, that they may want to bring their children on the school buses or on the buses for transportation. But typically, a lot of it is the summer program, which it's always been excluded from the original deal.
got it, okay.
And we're not talking a lot of tickets. They don't buy a lot of tickets
Yeah.
outside of that, so.
And I'm also just out of curiosity with the restriction to 11 p.m. I mean, were there a good amount of students that are riding after 11?
I can't remember. I know I had looked at the CMSD data with them, and we noticed that there was a fair amount of people, a fair amount of rides at strange hours, and they wanted to eliminate that themselves.
Yeah.
So they just said, we want to cut it off at 11 o'clock, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be on it before 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So.
Right, no, that's a good point. And let me just make a comment. I mean, as a CMSD grad and someone who, obviously was riding transit at that time, I appreciate what the organization has done, and I appreciate the partnership that it has with CMSD because it does make the difference. So I'm glad to see at least the expansion of days, whether kids are going to after-school activities or doing things on the weekend, maybe going to internships, et cetera. So kudos to everyone involved.
And one thing that'll make this contract easier is CMSD has adopted one calendar for the year instead of calendars for each specific school.
Yeah.
Do I have any other questions from the committee or the board as a whole? Hearing none, I will move to bring this item to the board as a whole. Do I have a second?
Second, Love?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, and this item will come to the full board for approval. The second item on our agenda today is a discussion of the fiscal year 2026 tax budget. And we will get a presentation from what looks like Kay Satula's up there too, and Wendy Fine. So the floor is yours.
Good morning, Chair Sleesman, members of the committee, and members of the board. My name is Kay Satula. I'm the Director of the Office of Management and Budget. I would like to introduce Wendy Finn from the Office of Management and Budget. She's one of our team members, and this is her first presentation.
Good morning, Chair Sleesman, members of the committee, and members of the board. My name is Wendy Finn. I'm a budget management analyst with the Office of Management and Budget, and today I'll be presenting the 2026 tax budget. The tax budget is an initial analysis and forward-looking document that estimates revenues for the upcoming fiscal year. Today, I'll go through the budget development schedule, our assumptions, and then hold the public hearing. Our budget development process started this past May when we presented the 2026 Capital Improvement Plan, which was adopted by the board. We presented this earlier in the year to align with NOACA, ODOT, and FTA planning schedules. Today, we're presenting the 2026 tax budget, holding a public hearing, and will request that the committee recommend to the full board for adoption on July 15th. Starting next month in August, we'll begin the operating budget development process for fiscal year 2026. And in November, we'll present the 2026 budget, which includes operating budget and transfers to other funds, to the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee. We will also have a public hearing on the 2026 budget. In December, we'll present the budget again and hold a second public hearing at the committee meeting. We will recommend the committee present the budget to the full board for adoption on December 16th, 2026. As far as the economic assumptions that were used in developing the tax budget, the authority continues to manage the effects of inflation and supply chain issues and monitor economic conditions. The Federal Open Market Committee, or FOMC, has kept interest rates steady as they monitor the rates of inflation. And FOMC is forecasting that inflation will stay between 2.7 and 3.5% in 2026. So far this fiscal year, the authority has received an average yield on its cash investments of 4.05%. Ridership and passenger fares are projected to increase at modest levels in 2026. Sales tax is projected to maintain 2025 levels, and wage increases, which are largely based on contractual arrangements with the ATU and FOP bargaining units, are based on the 2026 contractual rates. For general fund revenues, we're projecting a 2% increase in passenger fares. For sales and use tax, we're projecting stable revenues in 2026 and modest increases in 2027 and 2028. Reimbursements are projected at $7 million, and this includes $6 million for preventive maintenance. We're estimating to need to transfer $33 million from the Revenue Stabilization Reserve Fund. And based on these estimates, that would maintain the 1-month operating reserve, which would adhere to our current financial policies. Total revenues for the 2026 tax budget are estimated at $342.8 million. Again, the two largest categories of revenues in the general fund are sales and use tax, which are estimated at 78% of revenues, and passenger fares at 9.5% of revenues. And under the reserve fund, there's the $33 million transfer for revenue stabilization to maintain that 1-month ending balance. General fund expenditures are estimated at $352.8 million for the tax budget. The largest piece of that is personnel costs, which is estimated at $244 million, and this includes salaries, overtime, payroll taxes, and fringe benefits. And if you notice, the fringe benefits line stays steady in 2027 while salaries increase. And the reason for that is because we're planning on the 27th pay to hit at the end of this fiscal year, and we're expecting the impacts of that on OPERS pension benefits to hit at the beginning of 2026, making 2026 fringe benefits higher relative to salaries. The next three largest categories for operating expenditures are services, materials, and supplies at $24 million, purchase transportation at $16.5 million, and fuel and utilities at $13 million. Transfers to other funds totals $34.9 million, and these are for specific set-asides for insurance, for the capital program, debt services, pension, and the reserve funds. Again, personnel costs are the largest part of the budgeted expenditures, estimated at 70% of expenditures in the 2026 tax budget. Again, this includes salaries, overtime, payroll, taxes, and fringe. The next largest categories by percent are services, materials, and supplies at almost 7%, purchase transportation at near 5%, and inventory at almost 4%. For the fiscal year 2026 tax budget, total revenues are estimated at $342.8 million. Total expenditures are estimated at $352.8 million, and the estimated ending balance is $26.8 million, which would maintain that 1-month operating reserve. For 2027 and 2028, we're planning on transfers from the Revenue Stabilization Fund of $31 million and $11.4 million, respectively. And I would be happy to take any questions.
Hey, Wendy, this is Raj. Can you just go back to the previous slide? I just want to make sure that we highlight something. So once again, this is a 3-year plan that we're presenting. Obviously, the focus is on the 2026 tax budget. But if you look at the last row, which says estimated months reserve, you can clearly see that we will be in full board compliance with the policy that we have of having 1 month reserve for 2026 and 2027. And 2028, we are at 0.2, and that essentially means that the budget stabilization funds, if these projections hold, will be fully depleted sometime in late 2028. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that.
Thanks, Raj, and thanks, Wendy. Good job for your first time up here. Do I have any questions from the committee or the board as a whole? Mr. Love.
Great presentation this morning. I think maybe building on Raj's point, how is the agency preparing with these assumptions in mind? What steps are being taken to prepare for that fiscal year 2028 and that potential for not meeting the obligation?
Hi, I'm Kay Satula again, Director of the Office of Management and Budget. So we are currently looking at any expenditures. That's what we can control. So we're looking at expenditures in 25, and then as we go through 26 and 27, if we can reduce, great. The other thing that's impacting this is revenues. So we are very conservative on our revenues with the tax budget and any budget. So if revenues come higher than what is budgeted and expenditures are lower and we don't need to use as much of the revenue stabilization, we don't have to transfer as much, which will allow us to save that for future years.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll continue. And just, I think another two just general points of clarification. There's some assumptions in the model on sort of sales tax projections, and at this point, that's sort of our best guess assumption right now for beyond 2025 into 2026. That's right.
Yes, sales tax we cannot control. That's based on the economy. So we try to be as conservative as possible on sales and use tax, fully knowing that we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring.
Thank you for that clarification. And then just my only other point was in the fuel, utilities, electricity category, I see, there's contracts that stabilize price through 2027 and then mid-2026. I know we're also anticipating some pretty volatile markets there coming up in both commodities of natural gas and electricity. Just anything you can speak to that in terms of knowing what's coming in the next couple of years.
So we do have contracts in place, so fixed price contracts for our fuel and utilities. That has been saving us from the volatility within those, and we continue to keep those contracts in place.
Those contracts continue through, they'll be up for renewal
Yes.
renegotiation. At
Correct.
that point,
Correct.
could be price increases. Okay.
Any other questions? All right, if not, we are going to enter into a public hearing on the fiscal year 2026 tax budget, and to do so, we need to suspend the committee. Do I have a motion to suspend?
Motion?
Do I have a second? Ms. Elder seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee now stands suspended, and we will enter into a public hearing on the fiscal year 2026 tax budget. So do we have any questions or comments from anyone?
We have to read our statement
We
first.
have to read your statement first, sorry. Go ahead.
This is the official public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2026 tax budget for the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority. The information for the tax budget has been made available for public inspection on the authority's website, X, and Facebook page. Public notice of this hearing has been given by publication of legal advertisements in the Cleveland Plain Dealer on June 13th, 2025, June 15th, 2025, and the Column Post on June 11th, 2025, as well as by posting of notice in the first floor lobby of the authority's main office building, at the Customer Service Center in the Tower City Rotunda, RTA Facebook page, X, and on the internet website. Notification was given on these sites on how to virtually attend live streaming the committee meeting, public hearing, and board meeting, and how to submit a comment for the public hearing. The fiscal year 2026 tax budget was presented to the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee of the RTA Board of Trustees on June 1st, 2025. This is the initial analysis and forward-looking document toward estimating revenues for the next fiscal year. This is the first step in a valuable tool in the budget development process. The tax budget estimates revenues at $342.8 million. Sales and use tax receipts are projected near 2025 levels. Total passenger fares are budgeted at $32.6 million, an increase of 2%. Transfers from the reserve fund include $33 million from revenue stabilization to maintain a one-month ending balance. Reimbursed expenditures includes operating reimbursements for preventive maintenance, force account labor, and other miscellaneous reimbursements. For the 2026 tax budget, reimbursed expenditures are projected at $7 million, $6 million for preventive maintenance, and $1 million for capital labor and other reimbursements combined. Total expenditures for the 2026 tax budget are projected at $352.8 million, which includes $317.9 million for operating expenditures and $34.9 million for transfers to other funds. Thank you.
Okay, now, do we have any public comments from anyone in person? Do. So same as usual, give us your name.
Chris Martin, City of Cleveland.
Thanks.
I've got a few random notes that aren't really necessarily connected. First off, just a kind of a suggestion in the announcement, might start notifying people on Instagram as well of public hearings. This is so loud. Your slide decks. They used to be posted on your website. Please start posting them again. They are public records. It makes it easy for the public to access them. Okay. Actually, another quick random note. Fare capping, haven't heard about that in a few months. You made your co-book changes to make it something that you can implement. I would like to see that implemented. Now about actual tax stuff or budget stuff. You're going to be broke in like 2-3 years. You are going to be broke in like 2-3 years. And I want you trustees to start thinking about what you are going to tell the public when you are voting to cut service and implement fare hikes. Because I have heard no plan to make sure that you don't stay on this path of going broke. You know, we get these capital projects now and again, and they lend themselves well to ribbon cutting ceremonies. You can throw on a hard hat, get a ceremonial shovel, maybe get some oversized scissors. It sounds like fun. But they don't get us, the riding public, to and fro. So I want to know what you trustees, your plan to increase operational revenue for this agency is, so that we can actually go to work, go to see our mother, go hang out with some friends, go to the grocery store. That's really it. Like, a technical question, I've been asking this around as well. There's an open question about what amount of sales tax you can levy in Cuyahoga County. Right now, you levy a 1% sales tax that has not been increased once since 1975. I believe you have 0.5% more that you can levy. I believe there are other people with different opinions on that. I've heard that there's no more sales tax that you can levy. I've heard that there's 0.25% more, that there's increments of 0.1% more. And like I say, my hope is that it is the full 0.5% that this agency believes it can levy. And that's a preliminary question I would like to hear an opinion on from this agency. Would be a good faith, sign to me that this agency has any sort of feeling of urgency to fund itself. That's all.
Good morning, everybody. Making a budget is a difficult thing. It doesn't matter it's a government or down to even an individual household. We have lots of services we can provide, and we have shown that we have been improving. However, due to the federal budget, especially on transportation, then we have a state government always like to cheating on our share, especially on transportation, public transportation. Since this is a public service funded by public money, in this case, sales tax. We just celebrated the 50th anniversary. However, our revenue from the main source has been the same for 50 years as well. I really think that GCRTA should try to make an effort. Whenever on the county level, when they have anything they want to use the sales tax for something else, like for example, county jail, GCRTA actually you should stand up to fight for our fair share. Do we need a bigger jail? Far away from the people who actually needs to have access to it. I mean, I'm not talking about going to jail, I'm just talking about even visiting or helping the people in the jail, providing service for the people in the jail. In that case, we probably would not have to put the burdens on ourselves to cut the service, raise the rate, the fare rate, and in that case, the people who needs to use the service can still continue, and we can actually attract more people to pay attention to public transit and start enjoying the benefits for the whole community. I think that's the direction we should go. Please do not let numbers to fool us. We do not want to have a deficit, yes, but we have not been offered our fair share of what funds this organization. We can show that we are making effort. We deserve to increase our funding by having maybe just 0.5% of their sales tax. Why should they reallocate those parts to other services which are not really helping majority of the people in our community? And this is something we should consider seriously, so we would not have to cut service, put the burdens on our riders and other community members. Thank you.
Thanks, Lou. Do we have any other comments from the public in person? If not, do we have any on the phone? Or submitted electronically? No? Okay, in that case, we'll wrap up public comment period. And we will move, I'll move to exit the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second, Love.
All those in favor? Aye. And we will reconvene the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee meeting. I need a motion on that one? Probably, yeah. I'll move to reconvene. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And now we will adjourn the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee meeting. I will move to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Mr. Sleesman,
Yes.
before the adjournment,
Apologies.
the recommendation.
Correct, yes, of course. Before we adjourn, go ahead.
Staff requests that the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee recommend the fiscal year 2026 tax budget to the full board for approval.
Okay, I will move to bring this item to the full board. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. This item will come to the full board. Now, I'll move to adjourn. Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? This meeting of the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee stands adjourned at 9:58.
Great. We're going to just skip around a bit, and we're going to do the Committee of the Whole Board next. And I'm going to make a roll call, please, Avis.
Okay, Committee of the Whole. Mayor Paul Kumar, Chair. Lauren Welch, Vice Chair. Anastasia Elder. Mayor Gallo. Stephen Love.
Yes.
Reverend Lucas. Deidre McPherson. Ms. Pachetti.
Here.
Jeffrey Sleesman.
Here.
Next item, we have the approval of the minutes on June 17th, 2025. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved, Sleesman.
Is there a second?
Second, Pachetti.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next item, we have a code book update, amending section 410.01, the code book, to increase the threshold above which the Board of Trustees must approve contracts. And Don Tarka is presenting, as always. Always nice to see your smiling face.
Good morning, Mayor Kumar, members of the board. I'm Dawn Tarka.
Dawn, if I could, if I could ask just for a moment, just because we lost one board member as you were announcing, Mayor Kumar, if we can have legal counsel just for the record on what we're actually doing today in preparation for the next board meeting for this item. Janet.
Thank you, CEO Bernstone, Terry. Given the fact that the board does not, this particular meeting, the Committee of the Whole, does not have a quorum, what you are able to do is to hear the presentation on the proposed code book changes. You will be able to ask questions, et cetera, but the only thing you will not be able to do is to make a motion or to move to refer this to the full board for approval. You can adjourn the committee meeting after it's done, but that's the only thing you will not be able to do. Okay, we're good? Thank you.
Today, we are here to consider some proposed revisions to the board's policies. By way of background, the policies were codified in 1989. We've been in a process to review and update those policies, and they are subject to review and revision every 3 years. Today's presentation, however, is not a part of that review process. Today's presentation relates to changes to the board's policies related to changes in state and federal law. The general manager's contract signing authority is the first part that we would talk about, and then the second part will relate to change order authority. Ohio Revised Code Section 306.43 establishes the amount over which a regional transit authority board must approve contracts. As of June 30th, the Ohio legislature has raised the amounts by which the board approves contracts from the $100,000 that it has been to the simplified acquisition threshold, which is currently $250,000. The simplified acquisition threshold is a federal statutory requirement. For the board's policies, we're recommending increasing the general manager's CEO's signing authority from $100,000 to $250,000. And those proposed changes are reflected in the red lines that you received in your board packet. Sections 410.01A8A3 and 410.01A8B2 are proposed to be revised to provide for the signing authority to be $250,000. For change order authority, we're recommending changes to the general manager's change order authority so that it coincides with the increase to the contract signing authority. The current change order authority, if a contract price is less than $100,000, the net amount that does not cause the total amount to exceed $100,000 would be the change order authority. For contracts up to $1 million, the change order authority would be $100,000. For contracts that are between $1 million and $5 million, the change order authority is the lesser of 10% or $250,000. For contracts that are over $5 million, the change order authority is $500,000, and that's the current authority. The proposed change order authority is for a contract price that doesn't exceed $250,000. The proposed change authority would be the net amount that does not cause the total amount to exceed $250,000. For contracts up to $2,500,000, the proposed change order authority would be $250,000. For contracts that are between $2,500,000 and $5 million, the change order authority would be $500,000. And for contracts over $5 million, the change order authority would be $750,000. I'm going to skip the recommendation since there won't be a vote.
And just point of reference, the change order committee would continue to review any change orders over 50,000. That would not change, correct? Just to get that on the record.
Thank you, Mayor Kumar. The change order committee is not part of this board policy, but that is in the procurement policies and procedures manual, and it is intended that that practice remain.
Any questions from the board on this at this point?
No questions, but a comment. I think raising items like this, wherever they come up, is a good plan. We often write these things into rules and then don't adjust for inflation over time, so it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to do that, and I know with the state, even at the municipal level, they've increased that, and lately they've started indexing it for inflation, so it continues to grow at a pretty. I don't know if this would be indexed or not. We haven't talked about that offline, so I just wanted to have a clarification on that.
The legislature did that last year for almost all governmental entities and left regional transit authorities out. They fixed us this year by giving us the set simplified acquisition threshold, $250,000. They did not add in the index increase.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Just a comment. I'll also share my support. I think it's really important that we spend time on the most significant items, and I think this helps us prioritize our time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the reason I brought up the change order committee is that is a variety of functions from internal audit, finance, procurement, et cetera, looking at those change orders and, in essence, giving a recommendation to the CEO to sign off on those. So there's a lot of due diligence that goes into reviewing those change orders. And I think from a board perspective, I know when I came out, I very much appreciated that process.
Thank you.
I not to belabor, and this might save time, but given that we can't really pass anything today, I don't know if this is possible. I don't know if it's worth our time, but since we're not passing, we might as well take a little bit of time in exploring that maybe we write this just to match that simplified acquisition into here, so that if it get raised again, it just automatically happens on our end.
That would be.
If doable, if possible, if manageable, but also, because we're not passing anything today, maybe take a.
And I think what he's saying is, we do this in
Write it into here.
in our city is if we're going to go to that, the maximum, a lot of our city ordinances in Bay Village, we tie to the Ohio Revised Code. So when it changes, it moves. So, we can, sometimes people don't have a comfort level with that, but, we could always talk offline on that.
Again, given that we're not passing this today, we could have an exploration.
The board,
I'll ask, sorry, we keep jumping on each other. I would request that the board give us internally time to review that request. I'll just say that I am very conservative when it comes to automatic authority on anything. So I would, if we do add anything like that, that we have at the, legal, you can help me with this, but the consideration or approval of the GM CEO or recommendation of, because I would not want it to go automatic. I think a lot of it depends on what the climate of the internal processes are as well. And we do have a very confident, competent process at this point, but I can't have a crystal ball. So I would want to just make sure that we have that included so that there's not an automatic threshold inclusion, but we do have the provision to be able to do that so that we don't miss the opportunity. And I hear that for sure.
Maybe we move forward with this suggestion, you can take that under advisement, and maybe then we can pick it up at a later date if we need to, just in terms of process and moving this through. Thank you. Okay. Nothing, one more? Sure.
I'm sorry. I just have one more question for clarification. Can you share if there are, clarify if the general manager or can still, if something is under 250,000, still bring it to the board at your discretion? Can you just?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Just to piggyback, we do have, and I think historically, right, we've done it even with a $100,000 authority. I think that while it's not common practice, if something is a little wonky or an unusual layered process, we can always have an informational presentation, which I would suggest to be the standard, because being able to have a deviation from the rules sometimes can create additional complexity and misunderstanding. And I also want to make sure that the board sticks to the kind of rule that we're approving today or in 2 weeks. But to your point, absolutely. That can always be advised of the board as informational purposes. That would be my request, that we would continue to do that. But understand, as a general rule, we'll stick to the thresholds so that we can also capitalize on our time and yours.
Anything else? Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole. Is there a second?
Second, Pachetti.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that session is ended. We'll move on to our last.
Okay, in order to ensure that we have quorum, I'm going to invite Reverend Lucas, if you would join our committee. Yes? Okay. Trustee Love, will you join our committee? Excellent. And Mayor Kumar? Okay. All right. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. With that, I'd like to call to order the Organizational Services and Performance Monitoring Committee to order at 10:10. And we have, do we need roll call? Yes, okay.
Okay, there would be Emily Pachetti, Chair.
Here.
Lauren Welch, Vice Chair. Now, Mayor Kumar.
Here.
Stephen Love.
Here.
Reverend Lucas.
Here.
And Jeffrey Sleesman.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. So we have two items today. The first is approval of minutes from the June 3rd meeting. I'm going to move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those minutes are approved. We'll move on to a non-competitive procurement presentation. This is a presentation of a recurring negotiated non-competitive procurement for annual software maintenance and support of the authority's demand response, customer information, and client communication software applications. Our presenters are Charles Morgan and Sean Becker. Welcome, and please go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Pachetti, committee, and the board as a whole. My name is Charles Morgan, and I am the Director of Information Technology, and I'm going to present the Trapeze Software Maintenance and Support Renewal. For a little background, our GCRTA has utilized the Trapeze PaaS software application since the 90s. The application provides demand response, which is our paratransit system, transit services with scheduling and dispatch. Some of the core components is the web and as well as the integrated voice products, which include scheduling, route management, web services, and soon to come the mobile app. There are currently 4,000 active paratransit clients that took 670,000 passenger trips in 2024. As stated earlier, this is a proprietary product offered exclusively by Trapeze Software and does align with the FTA mandates around ADA services. One thing I do want to mention before I move on from this slide, even though RTA has used this software for roughly 30 years, it has gone through various upgrades and iterations to the state-of-the-art version that we utilize today. Here we have a list of some of the components that makes up the system. I just want to touch on a couple. If we look in the first column, we have the PaaS CT, which is our coordinated dispatch system. It allows the dispatch team and the drivers to communicate with one another. We have the PaaS Web, which was recently updated based on rider feedback to a much more user-friendly version. And then we have the Driver Mate, which we're going to touch on the next slide. Excuse me. In the second column, we have the IVR components, which are the interactive voice response systems. It allows our riders to interact with a live person to make riding plans. And it also allows them to provide feedback, both negative or constructive, on their experiences. On this slide, we have an example of the Driver Mate tablet, which is on all of our vehicles. It's an electronic manifest that provides real-time scheduling and trip updates. It does improve communication between the drivers and dispatch, and it helps to increase our on-time performance. The Trapeze Software Group maintains these tablets for us. So if they break, they replace them, and we provide this. We put the software on them, schedule them.
I am a RT rider of a paratransit almost every day. The time that now we have to wait on dispatch has gotten much longer. The time we have to schedule a ride. For example, the last 3 days I've had to schedule a ride, I was number 59. You know how long that is 59 before you get a dispatch. So I think on that, with that support service, it's not working.
I don't know. I saw Nick in the audience. Can you?
Good morning. I'm Nick Davidson, Director of Paratransit. Reverend, to answer those questions, some of that is about capacity and will be alleviated with the upcoming mobile application. A lot of the delay in getting through is due to capacity. So when we have that mobile app and folks can schedule their trips online through the application, as well as check on their rides, that call volume will drop significantly and you'll be able to get through. This support services is critical for our ability to support. When a system does go down, they do actively help us out and get the system recovered. So this is a vital service for maintaining our system.
Now, is this in that new package?
I'm sorry, sir?
Is this in that new package? Are we doing anything? Go back to the slide. Are we doing anything with that component or not?
This is the DriverMate component. DriverMate is also being upgraded with the version 21
It is
upgrade.
being upgraded.
Yes, sir.
Just to clarify, and we'll come to questions in a second, so I'm sure we can discuss this further. But to clarify, when you say there's not capacity, is that capacity of dispatchers or capacity of like drivers or other operations folks?
So our call volume has increased we're growing at about 8% of our trips each year. With every trip comes another call. So our over the last several years, our call volume has grown 8% approximately each year. So I'm not adding phone or capacity. I'm not adding resources for employees to answer the phones, but we're trying to push some of those services to online. So last year when we implemented our web scheduling, we've slowly increased the number of folks who are scheduling trips online. We're currently at about 5% of our, 3.5% of our trips are scheduled online. We saw a spike in the beginning of last month at about 6%, but we're increasing web scheduling, and that mobile application should increase it fairly significantly. So that'll drive down the call volume, and we'll be able to manage that capacity with the people in the call center.
Thank you. Anything else, Reverend, or you want to come back? Yeah, okay. Thank you. Please continue.
Just to add on to what Nick said, we are currently implementing an upgrade. And so we'll be moving to version 21, which is the latest version of the software in the next few months. And we should see some improvement in stability and performance with the upgrade. But
Let us know when that's in.
yeah, we're in UAT testing now. So we're hopefully later this summer, we'll go live with the newest version.
Personally, let me know.
I can do that.
You know your first name is Charles.
And last name's Morgan.
Sir.
If we talk about the support a little bit, as the director of the information technology team, I work with Trapeze software on a daily basis, especially during this upgrade and when we have support issues. So they have been a great partner. So from everything from providing the 24/7 support that we expect. We had a recent issue where we were down and they worked around the clock for about 4 days to get our production issue resolved. So I do want to call that out, that even though they're proprietary software and we've made this long-term commitment to them, we have enjoyed the relationship and it's been a productive working relationship. So they do provide support for all of the software and equipment within the scope of the service, including those tablets. The support for non-critical items are Monday through Friday from 8 to 8. And again, the 24/7 support for critical production issues. The customer care contact information and online portal is available to us to enter, update, and track issues. We're assigned a dedicated customer service manager. Nick and I meet with them on a monthly basis. And we have 2 free user conference registrations, as well as free software patches and upgrades. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sean Becker.
Thanks, Charles. My name is Sean Becker. I'm a program contract manager in procurement. Good morning, Chairperson Pachetti, committee members and members of the board. I'm going to handle the procurement overview. So this is a non-competitive purchase with Trapeze Software Group, and per revised code section 306.43H3, that signifies that is qualifies as a non-competitive purchase. This is a renewal of telecommunications software. That software is proprietary, and Trapeze is the only one that can provide upgrades, support, training, etc. on that software. There are other players in the industry that could provide similar software. However, that would involve another competitive RFP process, lots of time, heavy investment, heavy training, and Trapeze has been a good partner with us, as Charles mentioned. So procurement requested a proposal on April 22nd of 2025. That proposal was received on June 21st. There was a 0% DBE goal assigned to this project due to the proprietary nature of the software, and that proposal was reviewed by members of IT and procurement. Trapeze experience, they're pioneers in providing intelligent transportation systems, or ITS. They've been serving transit for over 30 years. They have over 40 offices worldwide, and they support over 135 of the large transit agencies across North America. Some of Trapeze clients are GCRTA, Central Ohio Transit Authority, Capital Area Transit Authority, Southwest Ohio Regional Transit Authority, Dallas Area Rapid Transit, Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, Maryland Transit Authority, Nashville Metropolitan Transit Authority, and Pace Suburban Bus, among many others. So this chart right here basically signifies that the significant uptick that we've had in paratransit. This is going to support the next slide that I have, but basically with many software packages, over time they perform user audits, so how many licenses are being used to true up basically the cost and the drivers. So a lot of the cost drivers for this software are tied to what you see as the operational characteristics, and many of those being passenger trips, books tripped, and paratransit vehicles. So they did an audit, and this kind of falls in line with the increase in paratransit ridership that we've seen in the demand over time. So you can see some of these operational characteristics have increased between 20–30%, with one being close to 74%. And this kind of ties into the year-over-year cost. So the final year of the previous contract, or our current contract that we're in, at $477,000, year one is proposed at $628,000. So typically we want to see around a 3 to 5% increase, 6%. That is close to a 30% increase, but that again ties back to the operational characteristics audit. And this falls in line with the uptick that we've seen year over year with paratransit demand. So then when we get into year one to year two, we're looking at about approximately a 6% increase over time, which is fair and reasonable, for a total price of $2,005,421,000. So the recommendation, staff requests that the Organizational Services and Performance Monitoring Committee recommend to the Board of Trustees the award for Trapeze Software Maintenance and Support to Trapeze Software Group, Inc. in a negotiated contract amount not to exceed $2,005,421 for a 3-year period. And at this point, we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Do I have any questions or comments from the full board? All right, well, keep us, I'll just say, keep us updated as this rolls out. I think there's a high level of interest in just improving the efficiencies in the system, and hopefully, this is part of that solution. So,
Sean, would you like a motion to move this forward?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
we're getting there. Do I have a motion to move this to the
So
full
moved.
board?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, I think we're ready to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. I think that's it.